Back in my corporate days, my work became my life. I had this never-ending to-do list that was following me night and day. So much so that I had to stay in so many times. I had to stay in at the office in the evening, I had to come in during the weekends, and I had to work from home so many times before that was a thing. Since I became an entrepreneur, I had to learn a thing or two about productivity and getting things done. So if you're sick and tired of having this never-ending to-do list that follows you everywhere you go, from work to home, which causes you to have no work-life balance and essentially no life, this video is definitely made for you, because in it I'll be sharing all of my tried and tested tactics about how to be productive, work smart, make progress so that you feel content about what you've accomplished, and ultimately feel calm at the end of the day and have space to have a life. Hi, I'm Wafa. I'm an ex-investment banker turned career and wellness coach and speaker. If you haven't been here before, I love talking about everything on career fulfillment, career development, self-care, health and wellness, and burnout prevention. So if any of these topics sound good to you, make sure you subscribe to my channel and like this video. That always makes my day. Time for the summary. In part 1 of this video, I'll be sharing the building blocks of an effective to-do list so that you're clear on what's important to be done and what's not. And in part 2 of this video, which will be coming up next week, I'll share how to transform that imaginary, perfect to-do list that, if we leave it like that, will collect dust on its own, and how to transform that dusty imaginary to-do list into a to-get-done list that's going to be done with tactics that will help you make it actionable. So chasing a never-ending to-do list is definitely part of the hustle culture. We are told that to be successful, we need to do as much as possible and we need to do everything at the same time. And that results in us believing that the right way of getting things done is to do everything at once, multitask all around the place, and just be glued to our to-do list, not learning how to create separation between different areas of life. And that's a problem because that causes a lot of frustration, a lot of exhaustion, and a lot of overwhelm. Here's the thing, we cannot do everything at the same time. Just like a clown cannot juggle with a million balls at the same time, we cannot do everything at the same time. And so wanting to juggle with 10 balls at the same time is quite unrealistic because time is limited. We all have only 24 hours in one day, and our energy levels need to be recharged. So they're limited to a certain extent up until we recharge them. But how can we recharge our energy levels, and how can we make space, for our priorities if we don't feel our best, if we're not recharged? So that's why it's really important for us to have very clear and precise to-do lists so that we can work efficiently towards our most important goals, and then take mindful breaks to recharge our battery so that we can engage again and again and again in deep phases of focus. Here's the first building block to a powerful to-do list. Number 1, get clear on your priorities. At this point, I sound like a broken record because everywhere I go with whomever I'm talking to, I'll always talk about this first, but this is so important, you guys. How many times did I create perfect to-do list where I just sat down and I opened a note and I started writing down all the stuff that I thought that I needed to do. Everything. I started thinking in the future and back solving into the present and wanting to absolutely plan every single step to get to that goal. And I wrote that in my to-do list, and I think I had like 30 items on it, and I thought to myself, oh my god, I'm speechless. I'm reliving the moment right now. No, but for real, wanting to put everything that we think about our goals on our to-do list is not realistic, because certain things will happen way in the future, and some of the things are more urgent. And so the thing that I do with every single one of my coaching clients and with myself periodically is to do self-assessments and get clear on what are my current priorities of the moment in all areas of life. I like summing them up in 5 categories. We have the career and finance department, we have health and fitness, we have have friends and relationships, we have spirituality and religion, and fun and leisure. Wanting to juggle between all 5 of these priorities is not sustainable, as I said, because we only have 24 hours in a day, and I mean, let's be real. It is unsustainable because if you want to perform at 100% or close to 100% in each and every one of these areas of life, it's too much. We are bound to sacrifice something in the process. We're bound to sacrifice how present we are and how performant we are and how mindful we are in each and every of these areas. And so that's why it's so important that we all choose that we want to focus on for a short amount of time. And for this, I have created the perfect resource. Seriously, I created this goal clarity workshop back in my day when I first started coaching, and ever since it's become this evergreen resource that I've been sharing with participants at every event I host or with my clients, and I share it with them every time we start working together. That's become now the building block of our coaching relationship and their self-development journey. In this workshop, I walk you through step by step the ways you can identify which of these areas are a core priority for you in the short run and understand why. So if you're interested in not only building smarter to-do lists, but also just having more clarity on what are your core priorities in life so you stop scattering yourself around everywhere, make sure you watch and go through that workshop. I'll put the link in the description box below. So once you've done that workshop, now you have a clearer perspective on the areas of your life where you'll focus. And so these areas will translate into your to-do list. So for example, if your career was at #1 priority, of course, we expect a lot of your career to-dos in your to-do list. It's now important to also remember that sometimes life happens. And so even though you said, hey, I want to focus on my career and I want to focus on my health and I want to focus on my spirituality for the next 90 days, and you want to reflect and translate that into your to-do list, life still happens. And so every day you still have to walk your dog, for example, or cook for your kids, or you still want to maintain the status of your friendships and relationships at the moment. That's why the second category to take into account is everything else. All the other areas, just keep in mind the recurrent tasks you want or need to do in those areas and keep them in mind for when we'll create your tasks. Let's put in practice the tips of this video together.
Let's assume that this was our to-do list for a given workday. Imagine that our core priorities in life were our career, our health and fitness, and relationships with friends and family. Because these were our core 3 priorities in life, these were the 3 that we will dedicate most of our energy, time, and focus every single day. So it's normal that they translate into our to-do list. And so here we would have first the career portion, draft PowerPoint presentation slides. Here we have review comments made by the boss, correct Excel file and send to vice president. So by the way, Project Well, this is the name that we would give in banking to confidential client projects. And so this is a big wink or a nod, if you will, to my bankers out there. Anyways, then we would have go to 7 p.m. biking class, stretch for 5 minutes, call mom and dad. But as I said, it's also important to take into account the other things that life throws at us by surprise every single day that need to be done regardless. For instance, we have steam shirt for the next day. This is a routine task. Here we have feed cat, because whether or not it's a priority for you, you have to feed your cat, you have to take your dog out if you have one. Then let's assume that that day you noticed that you had some back pain, and so you thought that it was a smart idea for you to book an appointment at the chiropractor for the next month. So that needs to be done. Then imagine also that that morning before going to work, you noticed that you ran out of coffee. So you thought it was important for you to place an order online and stock up for the next months. Then let's assume that you get an urgent email from your boss asking you to respond to a specific urgent question. So obviously this would have a place on your to-do list. And finally, you get a surprise message from your best friend saying that she will be landing in the country and arriving late morning next day when you will be at the office. So it's important to remember to leave a copy of your keys at the front desk with the concierge so that your best friend, when she arrives, can pick up the key and have a nice place to stay when you are out in the office.
The second building block of an efficient to-do list is naming your to-do list. So having one single to-do list and dumping everything in it can work for some people, but it can be confusing for most. So that's why it's important to define how you will organize your to-do list to make sure that you really are clear about what are the categories that you're progressing on every single day. Here are some examples.
Here's how you can organize your to-do list. On the Reminder app on Mac, you can click here, Add List. So let's create 3 buckets. One will be main job. So this will describe your main career at work. You can also put emojis here, but we will not be doing this right now. You can also create side hustle. Let's pretend that you have another side hustle on the weekends. And here we have volunteering, because you have a big heart and you want to give your time back to your community.
You can organize your to-do list by areas of priorities in your life. For example, your career, your health and fitness, and your relationships with family and friends. Other buckets to organize your to-do list are work versus life. Another example is daytime work, side hustle, personal life, family life. You can also organize your to-do list by a role, taking into account all the roles and the hats you're wearing every single day. So that could look like employee, influencer, content creator, volunteer, sibling, family member, mom, dad, girlfriend, boyfriend, etc. There are many other buckets that you can organize your to-do list with. So feel free to get creative and find your own. My only recommendation at this stage is to not organize it by hard versus easy or something along that line, where you put on one side all the daunting, hard, brain power consuming tasks versus everything else, because that already sets people up for failure. It already creates a lot of mental overcharge and tension in one side, and then everything else is easier. And so, humans are programmed to want comfort and safety and go for repetitive patterns. And so it would not be surprising if every day you tend to want to distract yourself by starting with the easy tasks first and make a lot of progress at that list and then leaving the other one aside. In some cases, it can be useful to start with easier tasks just to get you warmed up and get you into the mood of working if you were distracted before or reluctant to get started, as it all happens to us. But having an entire list dedicated to easy and fun tasks, not really sustainable in my opinion. The third building block of building an efficient to-do list is to break it down into simple actions. Now that you have identified your core areas of priorities and you have identified the main buckets that you will split your to-do lists into, it's important to actually draft the actions that will be taken. What's important to remember here is not to draft the name of a whole entire project. For example, clean house. There's so many things that can be included in cleaning the house. There's making a bed, there's cleaning the kitchen, there's vacuuming, there's sweeping the floor, there's mowing the lawn. So writing clean home is way too vague. Here's another example of focusing on the whole entire project instead of a small achievable milestone. If you're at work and one of your to-do list goes like, finish PowerPoint presentation. And so that's not specific enough. So what we want is to break it down and identify every single milestone that will go into that project of finish PowerPoint presentation. So instead of that, you can write something along the lines of finish slide 1 to 5, or review slides 5 to 10, or finish charts on page 25 and 24. And finally, research Part 2 of PowerPoint presentation, slides 40 to 80. So you see how by breaking the project down, it allows you to have a very clear perspective on what needs to be done to complete that project. That allows you to have a clear overview of all the milestones that need to be completed in order to finish that project. It also allows you to anticipate the tasks that need to be delegated to someone else, or perhaps postponed to a later day in case you needed to do some research or practice or call someone, etc. Here's a few rules to make sure that the tasks listed on your to-do list are easy to understand, straight to the point, and precise to make sure that they are achievable. Now, building to-do lists is great, don't get me wrong, but pretty to-do lists that just sit there never helped anyone accomplish anything. It's time to make it actionable. So make sure you watch part 2 of this video to prevent your to-do list from collecting dust. In the meantime, make sure you apply and practice all the steps shared in this video, and if you've enjoyed it and if it was remotely useful, give it a good like and subscribe to my channel. It really makes me happy and helps me out a lot. See you next week for part 2. Bye.